Nick Stewart here, and in this Citizenship by Investment video, we're going to look at international residency in South America and Southeast Asia. Okay, so let's get into the video because I think it's pretty interesting especially for those of you who think you would like to retire into some of these jurisdictions or just want a second bolt hole. Okay, so let's get into the video. So a lot of the videos I've done so far have primarily been based around Europe and the Caribbean, which offer the best overall EU residency, being part of the EU, and the Caribbean, which gives you international visas, free travel to visit anywhere else. But for those who are maybe in the retirement zone or semi-retirement zone, then Southeast Asia and South America can be quite interesting, and it's relatively a small amount of money, etc., etc. And I will also cover Costa Rica and Thailand in this video. But what I would say about Costa Rica and Thailand, it's not on the same plane as economically viable for those on a lesser nest egg, shall we say. But let's get into South America first. So I lived 6 years in the Philippines, and the Philippines has a very, very simple retirement visa. Will set you back $20,000, which you get back when you leave. And in essence, you don't pay any income. You don't pay any income on your international income. So any tax on your international income. So you could be earning 10,000 in the Philippines, doing a job in the Philippines, which you would pay tax on. You could be earning 100,000 outside of the Philippines, and in essence, you wouldn't pay any tax on that. Okay, that is the law as it was when I was in the Philippines. I have no idea if the dictator's son Marcos has changed the rules, but that's how it was when I was there, and Duterte was the president. This is quite useful because clearly, obviously, if you're not paying income tax, it's a very nice situation to be in. It makes your money last longer. What would I say about the Philippines? The Philippines has some great places to live in Makati City in itself, or you can live in the islands like Boracay, Palawan, etc., etc. Beautiful place to live. My only consideration, and it was one of the reasons I left, is I wasn't too hot on healthcare. You know, if you get something bad happen to you, I'd want to be operated on outside of the Philippines. That's just a personal choice. Okay, but you make your choices. And the reason I actually left, I actually left the Philippines was education and healthcare. So the only school of repute that I would possibly send my son to is the British School of Manila, and that's £30,000 a year plus in school fees. So there becomes a point. So even though you might not pay any tax, there is a level at which you need to earn to get that benefit if you have kids, right? So the arithmetic didn't make sense for me. But my main focus for coming back was I wanted to protect my EU status, so I came back to Portugal. Malaysia works the same way, very similar, that you're not paying tax on your overseas income, and and a lot of Brits are there, slightly more advanced, more business opportunities. But it's not quite as fun as the Philippines, I would suggest. So, I mean, there are a lot more expats live in Philippines than Malaysia. But I think it's one of those places you either get to like or you don't like. And the people, you know, it would be for you to make a choice, but they will have a retirement visa. They have everything else that the Philippines has. But I think generally, the emotional relationships you build up with a Philippine or a Malaysian partner tend to be better with a Philippine partner. I would say that, wouldn't I? Because I have a Philippine wife, but that's by the by. But it should definitely be on your radar. As for Indonesia, I sort of exclude. You have Bali, a great place to live. Bali is a bit in between. However, I would suggest it's for foreigners. This is not as tax effective as the Philippines or Malaysia, and but a lot of expats live in on their nomad visa in Bali, which is a great place to live, right? Etc. etc. So sometimes the climate and the place, you don't care how much tax you're paying because you're having such a great time, right? Then you would have Thailand, which is a promise. So Thailand's a little rule unto itself, is they offer everything that Malaysia and Philippines have, but they have a much higher bar, and they don't really want poor expats. They don't really want people living on. You can live on €2,000 a month in Thailand if you want to, but they're trying to discourage that. They're trying to encourage more. So they're actually allowing foreigners to buy land up to €1 million. If it's €1 million piece of land, the things that they're really aiming at getting the higher net worth individual in. They'll still let you in, but it's a much tighter thing. It is very much, if you like, a bit of snobbery or whatever you want to call it. But if you're a high net worth individual, you're going to be treated very, very well in Thailand. And the great thing about Thailand, outside of Singapore and Hong Kong, it's probably the best place in Southeast Asia to have a business. There's a lot to do, a lot to go on, etc., etc. And obviously, it's a lot of fun, right? I mean, you've got places like Koh Samui, Phuket, the main island of South Pattaya, lots of great places that you can go to. So yeah, a great place to visit. Then the other option, especially for the Americans, as you know, Americans can't just leave and not pay tax anyway, so it becomes less of an issue for them, is residency in South America. And in essence, there's three options. You have the residency visa, which is about 350,000, I think, in Costa Rica. But Costa Rica is a bit like Thailand. It's actually expensive, right? It's, the cost of living is relatively expensive. It's not quite like living in the Caribbean, but it's one stage back. I guess the only difference about Costa Rica is if you live in some way that's on the back, you could choose to have a secondary life, if you like, that wouldn't cost you so much. But then your real options are Paraguay and Uruguay, who have visas that you can convert into citizenship after 3 or 4 years. And they work really, really, really well. My favorite would be Uruguay, because I just think Paraguay is too much like the Amazon for me. Whereas it's all inland, it's covered by, it's landlocked, whereas Uruguay is in between Argentina and Brazil. And I would suggest it's probably the safest South American country. In Montevideo is probably one of the safest South American cities. And then from there, you can visit Rio de Janeiro or Buenos Aires. I mean, Buenos Aires is one of the great cities. You'll see in the recent video I've done with Jose Herrera, a Spanish lawyer based in Thailand. He's originally from Argentina. We were talking about, about how wonderful Buenos Aires is, and definitely on my hit list to do very soon. So yeah, those work really, really, really well too. As I said, the difference between them and Southeast Asia, is that in Paraguay and in Uruguay, after a specific time, you get the right to convert them into citizenship, which is really good to have having a saving grace in case things decide to take off. And obviously, if you're in Krypton, or crypto or kryptonite, that's something that's could be playing on your mind quite considerably, especially with what's going on with the SEC and the banking institutions in the America as we record this video on the 13th of March 2023. Anyway, I hope you found the video interesting, and it's given you some basic ideas for thought. If you'd like to know any more, just get in touch. Please please hit the like button and the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can get more videos just like this.
Thanks for watching the video, and please feel free to connect with me on my personal website, nickstewart.co. Really looking forward to hearing from you. Bye for now.